something out of it. And I appreciate all y'all being here for us. You know, we alcoholics, we need each other. We got a common problem and we got a common solution, no doubt. And it's the 12 steps. So that's what we do here. We go through the program of recovery, where we leave out all that fellowship hogwash that kept me drunk for over 3 decades, in and out the fellowship. People telling me stuff that ain't even in the big book. So thank God somebody 12-stepped me through this thing. I had the spiritual experience, psychic change. I got a new way of living after 40 years of drinking. Thank God. Sobriety date February 3rd, 2020. And life just gets better every day, despite of what I go through, and even what any of us go through, because we got a design for living. And it really works. Even in rough going, it works when all other activities fail. So last week, you know, we talked about step 10 pretty much in detail. And lasted the whole meeting. So today, we're going to be headed towards step 11. I do a lot on step 11. I love to do studies on step 11 because that's the very important step, especially when we done been 12 steps through this thing. So if we living in step 11, we practicing the first 10 and then we doing 12 as well. So that means it incorporated into all the steps. So last week, step 10, it pushes us to step 11. But I want to finish here, Brother Dan. I want to go to page 85, where it talks about it is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action, right?
Yep.
And finish at the bottom paragraph right before it says step 11.
Yeah.
And we'll roll from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool, fab. Middle paragraph 85, everybody. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our will power along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action.
Okay, thank you, brother. No doubt. This is a powerful paragraph. You know, it starts off by saying it is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels, right? Spiritual program of action, that's the 12 steps. You know, we've been 12 steps through this thing. And step 11, we live in step 11. So that's our spiritual program of action. At times, we can rest up on our laurels, right? It's talking about past successes by living spiritually. Sometimes an alcoholic of my type, we may think, well, I done did enough. Ain't nothing else I need to do. But the program in the book calls for action and more action. So it says we are headed for trouble if we rest up on these laurels, right? For alcohol is a subtle foe. Yes, alcohol is a terrible foe. Alcohol is an enemy to us real alcoholics, and it's an adversary, and it's difficult to deal with. You know, alcoholism is above our pay grade. We can't treat our alcoholism, but we have a treatment for it, and that's the 12 steps. The program is outlined in the first portion of our big book. So, and then it talks about what we really have is a daily reprieve, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Our fit spiritual condition is living in the steps, living in the steps. I have to repeat that over and over, because if we veer off living in the steps, you know, talking about this alcohol as a sort of foe, we can rest on our laurels. We're thinking, oh, I done did so many meetings in so many months or years. I don't need to keep contact with God. You know, that's the enemy talking to us. That's that malady trying to creep in our brain to get us to do else will get us off course. We got a power now that's greater than ourselves. He takes care of all these things. So, we are not cured of alcoholism. We're gonna always forever have this physical allergy to alcoholism. Once we become alcoholic, there ain't no turning it back. We can't turn this pickle from a cucumber, right? Whatever it is, how you say it? We can't, the cucumber, once it turns into a pickle, we can't turn the pickle back into a cucumber. Just like we can't make a non-alcoholic out of a real alcoholic. If I fool around and ever take a drink again, I'm gonna be right back where I left off, drunk. And the phenomenon of craving kicks in, and I won't be able to ever shed it off. So, talks about this daily reprieve, all right? Well, we may ask how we get this daily reprieve. It's living in the steps, right? And that's what keeps us sober. So, what is removed? The allergy is never removed. Once again, what's took out of our mind is this malady. We done stop trying to keep ourselves sober now. We can depend on God or higher power, or whatever. I call it God. That's my higher power. So you hear me talk about God a lot in these meetings, but the malady is arrested. As long as we keep practicing the principles, the malady won't creep back up on us. Because the malady is subtle. That's why it says alcohol is a subtle foe. But here's a point, a great point I want to bring out on page 85, and it reads, every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. Asking God for direction, right, is using our willpower today correctly. Willpower could not solve our alcohol problem. So when we pray, we're praying for God's will to be done in our life. And you know what? That helps keep me sober. And we're going to go through that in step 11, right? And how to achieve this thing. So by now, we should be done had this spiritual awakening, a spiritual change, a psychic change, a personality change, whatever change you want to describe it. We acquired through this program. See, I had all different beliefs and ideas, and it was ran by self-will. When I found out I couldn't solve my own alcohol problem, I had to turn to the 12 steps of AA, because Lord knows I tried everything else in the world to solve my drinking, and I couldn't do it. But the 12 steps showed me what a program of recovery was. That's what I needed, because I relapsed and relapsed and relapsed. I get 2 or 3 months in, and I pick up that drink thinking, well, it ain't going to bother me this time. And shoot, I'm falling on the floor here the same day, a few hours later. I go on again. I go to another psych ward. I get out the psych ward. I ain't gonna drink. As soon as I get to that first store, when I get in that car, I'm getting me a bottle and some beer, whatever they had in that store for me to drink. And I always end up drunk before I got home. I hadn't been 12-step through the program at this time, right? But it's dangerous if we let up on our spiritual principles. There can be people in the program 20, 30, 40 years. And I've seen some of them go out and drink. Well, after all this time, what are you telling me? You just been on a dry drunk, right? So he didn't have, his willpower ran out, apparently. Because if we keep our program based on a relationship with God, we never have to drink. Because the book tells us rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. So, and we can exercise, when I talked about willpower, page 85 says, we can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. That means a relationship with God. We done gained a relationship with God now. We can talk to him. We got access to him. And we ask him for direction. We ask him what we should do about each and every situation. Because I remember the days I ain't asked God about nothing because they ain't want to talk to him. And I ain't want him looking at me, but he was looking at everything I did. But I blocked that out. We all know how that turned out. A life of emptiness, valeness, irritability, all that good stuff. Always that conflict with the whole darn world, and that conflict with myself. That was the main thing. Then God couldn't get into my life because I ain't want him in there. But so we always ask for his will to be done. My will kept me towed up for 40-something years. My will kept me in jails and prisons and rehab centers, psych wards, and everything else. because I didn't know how to act when that allergy kicked because I couldn't shut it off. No matter how great a wish the necessity was, I just had to put another one and another one, and I got thirsty. Each time I took a drink and that allergy, that phenomenon of craving kicked in, I got thirsty. So the bottles got bigger over the years, and then it took more and more bigger bottles, and it was just delusional, living in a life of delusion. So the page goes on, the last paragraph brings on about much has already been said. Yeah, much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. Key word, knowledge and power. See, it took a power greater than us to solve our alcohol problem. When I was trying to solve my own problem, thinking I had all the power, alcohol beat me down. It weakened me. And it finally beat me into a state of reasonableness, right? Well, shoot, I can't do it. And I couldn't, no matter how hard I tried. So we have learned that strength and the inspiration and direction come to you from the infinite source, what we call, they use great spirit of the universe. The big book uses all kinds of terms for God, a power greater than yourself. So we seek him for inspiration and guidance today. And we learn this from taking the 12 steps. And you know what? This thing worked for me. I know it works for all of us alcoholics. But we have to, this always talks about action and more action. So then it says that we have carefully followed his directions, right? We have begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. Now notice in the big book, I think these words are highlighted. They're capitalized, meaning his spirit. Anytime something is capitalized in the big book, it's a reference to God or the power that's simply greater than yourself, but it's a reference to God. Says to some extent we have become God conscious, but we have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. So here's a promise right here. If we have carefully worked the steps, so far we are beginning to feel the power of God flowing through you, and we are becoming aware of his presence. More action. That is not enough. Just having a little bit of action. We must go further and continue to work the rest of the steps and practice these things daily. So step 11 suggests what different ways that we can use prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. So we don't want to be self-conscious about praying and meditating. Others was using it successfully, and so should we. So step 11, it says sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So beautiful thing. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. So we don't need to be shy on this matter. I used to be kind of scared to talk to God, but at some point, when I wanted to get sober, I started learning how to talk to him, how to ask him different things. God, I'm tired of living like this. What do I need to do? I done tried everything else in the world. I done tried self-knowledge. I done tried sobriety, running on my own power. I tried everything I could, but Lord knows it didn't work. So when we see other people that use this prayer and meditation, and we see that it has worked with them, we can learn the example. Look, the first 100 men and women, they left an example for us here in this big book on how we should do this thing. And they show us precisely how they did it. And in a sense, these first 100 men and women that wrote the book, they are our original sponsors, because they didn't have sponsorship way back then. It took a while for them to start this sponsorship. But that was the best thing. They had one alcoholic talking to another. And then they would bring them specific things that they need to do. If they follow the path that this person did, they can get sober and remain sober. But after the printing of this big book gives us everything we need to get sober and to stay sober. Clear-cut directions is what the book says about it. So, the prayer and meditation, right? On top of page 86, it says it works if we have a proper attitude and work at it. Work. it would be easy to be vague about this matter. Yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. No doubt. They talk about this is a program, a suggested program of recovery, right? So, but I don't know, for an alcoholic like me, I had to have more than a suggestion. I needed somebody 12-step me through this thing, and I had to make it a must that I practice exactly what this book was telling me to do. I used to blow off them suggestions in all these meetings, man, for all these years. Shoot, I blow off them suggestions and go out and get drunk. So, Brother Dan, when we retire at night on page 86.
Yeah.
Just that paragraph about when we retire.
Yeah, cool. First full paragraph on page 86, everybody. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, or what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken.
Okay, thank you, Brother Rob. So here's the key. We already awake today, right? So we be in step 11 before we go to sleep tonight, right? Shoot, we done been woke. As for me, I've been woke since about 5 o'clock this morning. It's now after 2 in the evening, reading and studying all day, right? But then when we retire at night, and every night from now on, we use the 11 step. We review our day. We reflect on our conduct. We pray. We make contact with God all throughout the day. That'll be brought up in just a moment. So then, and when it mentions when we retire at night, that means when we go to bed, go to sleep, or we just call it a night. And just sit back, constructively review our day. We got to look at were we resentful to anybody, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? We think about, do we owe an apology to anybody? Have we kept something to ourselves? We should be discussing with another person. Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others? That is a simple solution right there. When we think about help others any kind of way, it works. See, we're taking ourselves at the moment. See, we alcoholics, we got this thing with this selfishness and self-centeredness, but it didn't work during our drinking career. But now we done got sober, we done took the steps. Now we always seem, it just comes automatically. It seems like we want to focus on somebody that I can help. But then it brings out, but we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. Morbid reflection, that's a dark state of mind, because it's contemplation in an unhealthy mental state. I suffered in this morbid reflection for many years, constantly thinking about the bad I did, the bad I was, and how I hurt everybody, right? But taking the 12 steps, I don't have to drift off into that kind of thinking, that morbid reflection. I can think about somebody to help, a biblical principle I like to share, and it's in the big book, love your neighbor as yourself, right? So we express love to everybody that we meet. Whether they are friends, whether they are enemies, it don't matter. So the usefulness it talks about, we can be a service to people, right? And that's the quality of being a practical and beneficial use. We want to be a service to God and to other people. And that's love and tolerance is our code. Forgiveness, it talks about forgiveness. We can forgive people for hurting us, or if we hurt them, it works. Forgiveness works. That helps so much in my recovery. If I make a mistake to somebody, if I say something wrong to somebody, I simply go to that person, ask for forgiveness, and take care of it. We make any of these mistakes that's in this when we retire at night paragraph. It says after making our review right, we ask God's forgiveness, and then we inquire what corrective measures should be taken. You know, and it works. It really does. So the stream of light is the course of human events and activities, the dominant path of energy in action or expression, flow of freedom and abundance. When we can forgive people, it sets us free. Yeah, helpful now, because we ain't driven, but it's selfish and self-centeredness now. And then, like I said, in praying with God, that's my best friend. So reflect a little bit more about when it talks about step 11 prayer. Once again, we ask God to forgive and know that He'll forgive us. We ask Him for inspiration, and we know that the wisdom will come to us, no doubt. So we carefully and we honestly think about the answer to each of these questions. We think about them, but we don't reflect on the dark side of them. We want to look for the best of these things. So, Brother Rock, we were rolling on to honor awakening. This is my favorite part right here. All to honor awakening. To the bottom of the page.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, to the end of that one. Okay, last paragraph. Last two paragraphs, page 86. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with as assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought or decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while.
Okay, thanks again, Brother Dan. No doubt.
Cool.
Step 11, right? We got step 11 practice for the night, right? Now, on awakening, the next morning, we still living in step 11. Soon as we wake up, we start living in step 11. Because it says, on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We still got a day to live, right? We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motive. So, I gotta make it a daily practice, right? Soon as my eyeballs pop up in the morning, I got to have a conversation with God. I do my very best to even have it before I get out of the bed. And if I take a step up out of the bed, I had to stop and pause and say, oh God. So here's what we ask God in the morning. We ask Him to direct our thoughts, right? See, our thoughts, my thinking led me to drinking, right? So now I got a different way to live. I can ask God to direct my thoughts, and He's been doing it for the last almost 4 years. And we ask God to help us to accept ourselves as we are today. We're no longer that same person that we once were. We got a new attitude, a whole new outlook on life today. Then we can ask God to free us from fear and sorrow, right? We, in my personal experience, I had a lot of fears in my drinking career. I used to be fearful of running out of liquor, and I'd be getting crazy. Then I end up in the psych ward if I ran out, because I'll be done went to jail for hurting somebody, so I can get me another drink. So then we ask God to help us to be honest and open-minded and to be willing. This is conscious contact with God, right? It's a two-way street. We grow in this relationship with God. And then we ask God to help us to be unselfish. You know, we ask God about that back on page 63. We ask Him to relieve us of the bondage of self. But we had to go through the rest of the steps to learn how to get rid of this bondage to self. And as we develop this relationship with God, self eases out the way. Because even the God that I serve, he didn't even please himself. He helped others before he looked out for his own self. Always had other people in mind. Who can I help today? How can I be of service to you? Because selfishness, I didn't think about no damn body. It was all about me, 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 me. So we ask God to help us think of these other people around us. It starts in our families, in our very home. And then we ask God during this period, ask him to show us how to help others, right? And this thing, it happens automatically. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So now, once we do this simple prayer in the morning, now we think about our plans for the day, and we can trust God that he will direct our paths that very day and all through the day. So when we condition our minds with the practice of step 11, our thoughts tend to become God conscious, and they become inspired by God. A totally different ball game than it was before. No doubt about it. So with that, I'm going to go to, it says, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision, no doubt. Key point, we definitely face indecisions all through our day. So as we think about our day, we may not be able to decide what to do. When this happens, a simple little prayer, well, God help me. I don't know which direction to go. Should I go left? Should I go right? Should I go straight ahead? Or should I go backward? You know, thinking about our day. We're gonna have indecisions every day, right? We all gonna run into some kind of situation, run into other human beings, and they might tick us off because we still human. An alcoholic can still get ticked off, but it's how we react to it today. So, you know, none of us, we ain't immune to nothing. We still in the flesh as human beings. You know, it says, here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought or a decision. Okay. Relax sometimes. Sometimes we have to relax. We have to relax and we have to quiet our mind. Let God work. That's the bottom line. We let him work. Because if I get ahead of him today, then I'm gonna be in a bad situation. But here's a promise here. Let me read this here. It says, we relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. Now, here's a promise in the big book. We'll be surprised how prayer and meditation works after we practice it for a while. It will become a working part of the mind. I'm utterly amazed by what this program has done for me. And it showed me how to gain a relationship with God. See, I was used to being on an organized religion, right? But I ain't had no relationship with God because I still drank every single day. I was preaching and I was still drinking, and I didn't have a relationship with God. Thank God I found a relationship with God through the AA program. And it's utterly amazing. So, with that being said, I'm going to go to the top of page 87, Brother Dan, and I'll read this part here.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. It says, what used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration, top of page 87, everybody, gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. So here's the point. Do not expect to be inspired all the time. We are still learning. We go through a growth process, and this growth, it must continue for a lifetime. We're going to make mistakes of what we seem to be mistakes. So don't be alarmed. We human beings. We're going to make the mistakes. So that's part of our daily walk. But you know, when we make mistakes today, we don't have to dwell on them. We realize, oh, I made a mistake. Do I need to make an apology? Do I need to help somebody? Do I need to talk to another alcoholic? Well, the best thing I do is I talk to God first, then I talk to another person, right? That's when I make mistakes. I'm gonna make mistakes every single day, no doubt about it. But you know what? I ain't got to turn around and fix it with that bottle today, so God fixes it all. But you know, the big book calls for action. So the action is the steps 10, 11, and 12. That's the growth steps. And we must continue to do this. So here's a promise here. When it says, nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. You know what? At this point, we find that our thinking has become inspired. We begin to have faith, and that inspiration will come to us when we need it. Inspiration. A definition of inspiration is arousal of the mind to creativity, a product of your creative thinking. Intuition. This ability to acquire knowledge without the use of reason. Instinctive knowing. And we get this from the one who has all knowledge and power. He incorporates these things in us today. As long as we stay open-minded, we become willing to listen. And we be honest with ourselves. Now, sometimes all of us may not be the most honest people in the world. We continue to practice these things. I do my best to be honest with the whole world. I got to be honest with myself. Well, God looking at me anyway, so I can't hide from Him. So I have to practice these things. Not gonna do it perfectly though, because I'm a growth that's gonna continue, no doubt. So, Brother Dan, it says on 87, it says when we conclude the period of meditation, you read that paragraph from
Yeah.
until you can easily see why.
Cool. Yeah. Second paragraph, well, middle of page 87, everybody. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why.
Okay, thank you, Brother Dan. Okay, step 11. When we usually conclude the period of meditation with the prayer. Okay, finish our morning meditation with prayer and then with another prayer. I pray all the time. It became a working part of the mind. When I came to realize that I didn't have the power to fix my own self, I realized God was the only one that happened. So when I sought God, he solved my alcohol problem. One of the three pertinent ideas is that if God could and would, if he was sought, right? So, hey, I sought God. He wasn't lost. Shoot, I'm the one that was there and lost. So, and then it goes on to say that we've shown all throughout the day what our next step is to be. That we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves. However, if others will be helped. Thank God for that that inspiration in this book. So here we go again, the prayer. When it's been dealing with the morning prayer, we ask God to direct each step we take throughout the day. We ask God to give us whatever we need to overcome any obstacles, any difficulties, any problems. We ask God for freedom from self-will. Remember, selfish and centeredness is self-centeredness. That's what defeated us in the first place. So I always ask God for relief from self-centeredness and selfishness and all of that, because that was deeply rooted in this thing. So we ask God for freedom from this selfishness, and then we ask God to help us to help other people. And be careful not to pray for our own selfish desires It is a waste of time to pray only for ourselves without any concern for others. We must try to help others, and praying for other people, that's a practice of step 11, because we're looking to help somebody else. And it takes us out of that self-will. With self-will, it consists of us being an alcoholic, being stubborn, and rooted in our own desires and pleasures, right? Not thinking about nobody else. So the prayer, we're talking to God. It's the act of communication with God. Solid, develop a relationship with God so we can feel freely to talk to God. Whereas it may take time for some of us, but in my instance, I had to start talking to God immediately, and then He directed me to come back to Alcoholics Anonymous. You done tried ENA, you done tried to self-help yourself, you done tried smart recovery, you done tried dumb recovery, you done tried jail recovery, you done tried church recovery, you done tried detox center recovery, treatment center recovery. Ain't none of that stuff work. No, they were telling me don't get too hungry, lonely, tired. I still drink here and all that old crap, but they ain't had no solution. Solution found in this book, though. And I thank God for the solution in this book. So then it goes on. 244. It says, if circumstances warrant, still on page 87, we ask our wise friends to join us in a morning meditation. Well, if it's appropriate, and our wife or our friends, if they want to participate just in a little quick morning meditation or whatever you may want to study that morning, me myself, I'm a Bible believer. I'm a big book believer. I practice what's written in them, thanks to God. He showed me the way, how to live in step 11, right? And it covers all parts of my day. So sometimes I share my morning thoughts with them, but they don't have to cook, because most of them be sleep time. I get up in the morning, because I'm up early every morning, praising God, studying these books, and I go along about my day. But it says, if you belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, we can attend in that also. Well, Alcoholics Anonymous is not religious in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's simply spiritual. But we can, our family members, they can see these spiritual principles that we have acquired, by taking the 12 steps, gaining a relationship with God. So sometimes my family want to participate in what I'm doing. Sometimes they listen at these meetings I do. They participate. If we go to church, we all participate together. So, but it ain't got nothing to do with religion. It's all about relationship. Relationship with God, relationship with family, relationship with other people. We no longer run around like that tornado. Then they blow the whole structure down, or dude peep out the cellar, ain't it grand, the wind start blowing and all the house and everything gone. So we got to be that way today. So, but then it brings out this point. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right, make use of what they offer, right? So, and that's what the big book's saying. So if we do belong to a faith that requires a morning practice, we can do that as well. But the morning practice I have is this step 11, morning as we go through the day when we retire at night. And this became a working part of my mind, and it happens automatically. I don't have to force myself to do it. It just pops up. So if you're not a member of a particular faith, which, we don't talk about, I don't preach Jesus on this platform or nothing, right? But if we're not a member of a particular faith, we can commit to certain prayers that we may do all through the day that apply to the 12 principles that we practice, right? All these principles are spiritual. So then, when it talks about these helpful books also, we can ask spiritual teachers or psychiatrists or doctors or whoever, even other AA members. We can always ask them to suggest books that may help us in our growth in spirituality, or maybe other spiritual programs. I'm very busy in my spiritual way of life. It consumes all of my day and all of my nights until I go to sleep. Then when I go to sleep, I got it in my ear. So we focus on what works for other spiritual people in this program, and then we can make use of it for ourselves. We can learn from them, right? So here we go. A helpful hint. I almost forgot it. And it's powerful. We can always use that 3rd step prayer or the 7th step prayer or any other prayers in the AA book, right? I use them a lot. But I mostly use my own because I want to talk to God directly. I don't want to talk to him on a set prayers, but whatever works for another alcoholic, it works, no doubt. We living in life on a new basis, Pete. Shoot. One more thing on step 11. We want to go as we go through the day now. We done covered when we retire tonight. We done recover when we get up in the morning. Now, this is our main thing right here as we go through the day. Brother Dan, touch on as we go through the day and finish it out.
Yeah, lovely. Cool.
Yeah.
Bottom of page 87, and we'll run through, like I say, to 88. As we go out through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done." We are then in much less danger, excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works, it really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Brother Dan. As we go through the day, we pause. This is a moment of reflection, right? A quick meditation moment, because I have to pause a whole lot of times a day. I ain't gonna tell you no lie, because I used to be foul. I used to just go off on a joker. And then I used to run to the bottom. But today, people don't even recognize who I am. So when we feel trouble, we feel uncertain, we can stop during the day, right? And think about what we're doing for a few seconds. Relax. We relax and take it easy. So we think before we speak today. That's the point I'm trying to bring out. Because we got a connection now. We got a relationship. We can start to God, what should I do next? This joker done said something I don't like. Then we can, again, we ask God to direct our thinking and our behavior, right? That's the main thing to do. And so remember, step 3, we turn our will and our life over to the care of God. So we constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. God is running the show today. And then it says, humbly saying, we constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. So that's a simple prayer right there. When we run into a situation, maybe at home, it may be at our workplace, it may be in the supermarket, maybe in a parking lot, it might even be at an AA meeting, right? So anytime we can stop and say, thy will be done, not mine, God. And it works, man, it really does. Because it takes the focus off of me and my thoughts, because my thinking is crazy. But it takes the focus off of me or us, then we can move on from it. And what this is doing is we are learning to avoid the stupid thinking, the crazy thinking, or the negative thinking, which can lead to bad decisions. I have not once had to do anything where I could be locked up for. I ain't cut nobody's head off. I ain't got drunk and went to jail because I used to be a crazy alcoholic. We all know I'm stupid alcoholic. See, I got PTSD, right? So I used to drink and I get in trouble and I take it to the limit. Today I don't have to live like that. Not once have I had a conflict with a person since I've been sober. Learn to practice the principles in this program. My relationship with God keeps me from making these bad decisions, right? And then it goes on to say, after thy will be done, we are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. So doing step 11, it just pumps me up, right? It energizes all of us. Doing and living step 11 to change your whole life. And that's the way I was 12 step through this program very early on. Kim, the best way we do this thing is living in step 11. You know, I've never once a day struggled with the thoughts of having a darn drink since I entered in recovery and recovered from alcoholism. Every now and then a thought might pop up though, right? Just a thought. Well, maybe a beer be no, but I wasn't a beer drinker. I drank beer, but I was a whiskey drinker. Maybe a shot of whiskey do me some good. And all of a sudden I said, God, what am I thinking this crap for? Boom, the thought gone. I already know I can't fool with none of this stuff no more. I'm a darn real alcoholic. But you know, I just went through major total hip replacement surgery. It's been 2 weeks now. Tuesday will be third week. I ain't never once said I'm gonna take me a drink to help me get over this darn thing. Shoot, no, let God did the job, and then He assigned doctors to fix my problem. I'm just recovering from it now, but I'm recovered from alcoholism, so I ain't got no need to damage my body and my mind. No, my relationship with God keeps me grounded. Anything I go through. If my little great granddaughter holler too loud at her, she got a problem. God, how can I help my little great granddaughter? He directs me to do it. Just simple things like that, right? So it goes on to say, we do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. Boy, we alcoholics, we burn up a whole lot of darn energy in our drinking career. Shoot, we did anything we could to get another drink. We hurt people, we ran over people, we took from people, we lied to people. Going days without sleep sometimes, right? Without any kind of sleep. But then the paragraph brings on, now this is my sponsor's favorite, the shortest sentence in the big book, I would say. It said, it works, it really does. It does work. So we alcoholics are undisciplined. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. This is we let God teach us today. We don't. I don't want to try to teach myself no more, because that happened bad 40 years trying to teach my darn self. It just kept me screwed up and messed up. But that is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. Now, this is a quote from the Bible, right? Because I told y'all I'm a Bible believer and I'm a big book believer. I do teach the Bible, but not in AA. It's a whole different outline when I teach the Bible. But this came straight out of the Bible. Faith without works is dead. Well, we won't go in that part. But this is still not enough, right? When it talks about faith without works is dead, we must continue. Step 12, the practice of helping others. Once again, we're living in step 11. We're doing step 12 when we're helping others, and then we already did the first, the 10 before step 11. We already did all that. So we keep on going. We keep on growing and expanding our relationship with God, or the God of your understanding of the power that's greater than yourself. A little, as we go through the day, that is so powerful. So we take a moment to clear our mind, and then once again, we ask God to direct our thinking. We ask Him to direct our behavior, and thy will be done. See, when I get cocky or anxious or something, I just simply say, hey, God, see, self want to pop up sometime, right? I have to tell self, God, thy will be done. And self will get back out of the way. The self will ruin the doggone show. But anyway, thanks everybody for being here today for me. God bless, and I hope you got something out of it. And beautiful day. Thank God for the AA program of recovery. Great to see everybody.
Cool. Well done, Campbell. Thank you very